It's time. Here we go. Starting off a little bit early. My name is Eric. I'm making a game. It's called The God Killer. It is a top-down 3D puzzler. Last night, started off. Actually, I didn't start. I was midway through creating these navigation guides for the player character that would make it easier for them to see what they're doing. And at the end of the session, there were a whole bunch of bugs that were there in the new feature, but I was still happy because it worked. It looked pretty good. Since then, I fixed all those bugs and I had some more stuff, so I'll demo that in just a moment. The schedule here, we'll go over the schedule for these live coding sessions like you're watching right now. I have those Monday through Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and on Sunday in the afternoon, 3 p.m. PST, I've got more game development, but not coding. So this Sunday, I will be creating the first level of the game, meaning the level that you see right when you start the game. And it's got tutorial content, it's got audio that plays from a character that guides you into the early mechanics that you have to learn. And I previously recorded some audio for that character to speak. I'll put that in. I don't know if I'll do all of this on Sunday, but I will start working on that, and I'll start making like a real level. I have made some other levels, but they weren't like definitely ready to go into the game, and this one will be made with that in mind. So join me if you want to see some nifty level creation on Sunday, 3 p.m. Now I'll do a demo of this guide stuff that I think is pretty cool, and I'll have to explain the rationale behind it a little bit. So if this was a game like, say it was a Mario Kart clone, you don't need that much explanation for it. A whole bunch of people have played games like Mario Kart. If it was a first-person shooter, you don't need that much explanation to it. It's solidly in a genre that a lot of people know about. If you make a Minecraft clone, it's pretty clear how most of it works right away. There's assumptions people make. But what I'm saying is this game is so different from what other people have played that I have to take special pains to add things to it that explain how it's all going to work. And I'll show you what I mean. So this character who walks around always moves entirely into a square that's next to her. So I added this feature of displaying like the square that you'll move into right next to you. You don't like partially walk into it, you walk all the way into it. And it's animated to be as quick as possible because I don't want there to be like this idea of an in-between state. You just simply are there after you issue the command to move. And so I set up that little guide there where it puts the squares around you. And it turns off while you're actively moving because you might make a number of moves all at once, and it just kind of looks better to turn it off unless you come to a rest and unless you settle. So it does that. It also does some other things. So if I go to the top of these squares, you can see just to the west it shows like if I walk west, I'm going to fall a little distance to this area over here. Okay, so that shows me precisely where I'm going to fall, which in this game is very important. It's not like if you just fall down there and you're a little north or south, it doesn't matter. No, it does matter, because depending on what the position of other things are relative to your drop spot, you could die, you could get shoved off the screen, you could kill something else. So you should always be able to predict what the consequence of an action is going to be before you issue the command. So when you're starting out, it's particularly difficult to make all those predictions because you haven't learned the rules of the world yet. But these little squares are going to help. So another thing that's fairly different is the rules about pushing. So if I move east into this empty square here, the guy that's north will on that same step will move south and push me south. With all the camera movement, that was particularly confusing for someone who doesn't really understand how it works. Okay, so that's... Anyways, I'm probably over-explained. Let me show a few other features of the guides. So here you can see where the guide square is like showing quite a distance beneath me where I'm going to drop if I move south. So then I go down to that square. Okay, so the other thing that I worked on was fling guide. So flinging is an action where you can move as many squares as is possible in one direction. So you move until something blocks your fling, and it doesn't matter if that movement takes you several kilometers north or south. It's just over in one instant, and so the trick here is that many times it's not clear if you can fling or not. So there's different rules for flinging. Something has to be present on the other side of it to catch you. So if I'm off by the edge of this pit here, and I hold down the shift key, the guides pop out, and it shows that I can't fling east because there's nothing there to catch me. Same for north and south. And that's actually more useful information because I can't see off the top or bottom of the screen. So I'm relying on this fling guide to say, oh, you can only fling in one direction, west. So then I can just fling west, and whenever I hold down the shift key, it will bring up the fling guide, and it shows that here I can just fling south. Now if I walk down there, I can see for myself, well, there's a wall to catch me. So see, if I just walked one square down, I can see there's a wall down there, so I know I can fling against that wall. But if it's off screen, I can hold down shift, and then it shows the fling guide. So over here, no possibilities for flinging. So I don't think like a player is going to want to always be holding down that shift key to check out what fling options are available. I consider just leaving it on all the time, but I think it's going to be more useful or make a better game experience if you just say most of the time it's not showing, and the player can just kind of figure out for themselves. And then every once in a while you might be in a sticky situation, where the enemies are all closed in around you, and you wonder, like, how do I get out of this? And you hold down the shift key. You can see, oh, I can go west or east, and then that'll give you a little more information about the world. But I would definitely not create levels where you need to find a secret catch spot for a fling. That would be kind of a terrible design for a level. It'd be very boring to play that. Okay. So I'm almost done with this navigation guide. There's one more feature I want to add to it, and it has to do with pushing and something called pushing parity. So depending on if these guys that are coming towards me are an even or an odd number of squares away from me, I'll either push them or they'll push me. And that sounds very mathy, even odd parity. But if you just think about it like this, when you issue a command, you the player, who's right here, to move east into this square, your turn immediately happens, and then right after that, all the computer-controlled characters, the creatures, they move immediately after. You can't see it in sequence like that because it would slow things down too much. But if I move east, that means I'll be in that square for a brief moment, and then this other creature will move into my square and push me west. So when you're starting out, it's maybe a little unclear as to whether you're going to push something or it's going to push you. So I want to add like a little clue in the square that shows you, like, if you move to the east, this guy's going to push you. I'll show what happens. So if I move east, that guy pushes me. But if it was set up a little bit different, let me get another example. So right now, if I move east, it will end up pushing him to the east because I'm right next to him. There's not like one square of emptiness between us. But this other guy, down south a little bit, is actually one square away, so it'll be like, I'll move here, this guy pushes east, and then when this guy moves north, he'll push me north. So those rules are hard to internalize right when you're starting out playing the game. So I just want to put like a little clue in that square about if you're going to get pushed if you move into that square. And that's going to be the next thing I'm going to do. So I'll just walk around just a little bit more just to show a few things about how it works, and then I'll start working. I'll start coding that thing up that I just described. See, so here, if I move south, this guy will get pushed. If I move west, this guy will push me back because there's one square of emptiness between us. And here I want to put a little warning, like a little arrow that points towards me to show that I'll get pushed if I move there. Okay, so I did some of this work already. Show that. So now I've gone into the scene editor inside of Unity, and there's this object here, or a game object, and if I set this property of it to say a certain direction, then it shows this arrow. So the idea is, like, if I set this to be south, then that would show a warning that if my character moves into this square, something's going to push her south. So I've got like the view part of this set up now, like all the code for like showing like the different states of it. The part to do next is to write the logic which actually checks for whether or not there's something that'll push me. So I'm going to go off and code that now. Also, I did invite some people from the Drog community on, and to offer up like a little demo. If you are here, welcome. And basically, if anybody here wants to see a demo of something, just ask, and I'll show you a little bit more if you want. But other than that, I'm going to head right into coding up this new feature. Here's the code where I would set a push warning direction. Right now it's hard coded not to show anything. So I'll add a new function that will figure out if a push warning is needed. So from the middle square, there'll never be a push warning. So this delta of 0 and 0, that's like column delta and row delta. Come on. Means the middle square. So then I need to write some code that checks the other cases. I'll get the coordinates of the player, and then I'll get the square next to the player that I'm checking for. And then I think so now I'm going to do a little design commenting I figure out my approach. So let's see, I need to know which adjacent to CRH square contain pushing creatures. I'm also thinking about an edge case, multiple adjacent pushing creatures. The first one in sequence will push. Okay. Okay. So I'm thinking about some different options for the code that would evaluate pushing. So if it isn't in piece, how about maybe this other interface, which is used for creatures that react to the player's movement. Would push, and then I could do a CRH. Okay, so I can get a list of all high reactants for each this is kind of a slow way to do it though. You'd have to go through every single one. Well, I'll finish writing out this possibility, even though I think it's not great. So if you get a list of all reactants, you say for each, if it's the CRH is at one of the 4 orthogonal push spots, then evaluate. Then call call wood push. Okay. Variation of this. Call wood push. In this version, wood push will check that CRH is close enough, it's accessible. The thing that makes this a little trickier is some of the pushing rolls are a little bit more advanced than just being adjacent. Might want to encapsulate all that. Okay, number 4. Each, call it threat square, each one of the threat squares for each threat square, check for a creature and then call reactant would push the trouble is the sequence. If there's multiple pushing creatures in the threat squares, which one is going to actually perform the push? Assign a sequence number to reactants within the list, their list. Order results by take for each pushing creature, find the one with lowest sequence number and return for it. Okay, so just thinking about the advantages and disadvantages. This one is my favorite right now for some different reasons. It's, let's see, the plus on this is simplest, encapsulates logic minus performance, because I have to look at all the reactants, all of the creatures. The problem with looking in just the threat squares. This one would be the highest performance, best performance. Problem with it though is logic is coupled to let's see, threat square selection is not encapsulated, so we would create some coupling with that. So I'd like the rules for pushing to be inside of the reactants, like if they can push or not. And if I say that certain squares around the player are dangerous and others aren't, then I've taken some of that logic out of the reactants or the creatures, and I put it here. I don't think I want to do that. This is just very coupled. This is a compromise between 3 and 4. It still has this is kind of like so performance is kind of good, not as good as this, but in my mind, like this wins. So that's how I figure out how I'm going to do something. It's just a little quick and dirty design. Took me maybe 5 minutes to think through the different options, and I think this is the best one for now. I can come back later if it's slow. Another thing I can do with this later if I want is I can run this in a job if it's slow. I don't think it's going to be anything that slow though, and I also have some logic already that waits to run this until after a certain delay occurs. So it's only like after you've issued a command and then you settle for a half second or so that this code would run. So this is the one. This is the winner right here. What is it going to return me? It's going to return me. Okay, high reactant. Reactants. Okay. Let's see, for each reactant. So I'll just look at every basically I'll just do the algorithm down below. Just look at each one that's alive and say if this reactant would push, might be better to say can push into square. I kind of like that better. It's more specific. So piece. Okay, so I add a new interface, or new method for the interface. And let's call it target. Wondering, do I want this to return the direction that it pushes? Or do I want the calling code to just imply it by the offset? I don't think I would ever make it so that it's a tricky thing to figure out by the calling code, so I'll just leave that. So we're saying if this reactant can push into the square, then I want to figure out the direction. Might as well pass the direction in instead of figuring it out from the delta. So, oh, actually, no, I can't know from that direction. I do have to figure out a direction based on the offset of this particular reactant. I can get that from eyepiece. Yep. Oh, come on. So CRH stands for column row height. Okay. So here I may want to add a new utility method to take the deltas between 2 points and come up with a direction from it. So I think I will do that. So let's see. So this would be pusher CRH moving into the square that's being evaluated. And actually I can just return this. Okay. otherwise, nope, nothing is pushing. Nothing is pushing, nothing can push into this square. Check if any reactants can push into the square. Get the square that is to evaluate for push warning. Okay, and here I can just delete all my lovely design comments. So then it looks like I've got some more stuff to write. Get direction from squares. Just a utility class for some different operations that have to do with squares or column row height coordinates. Okay. Kind of like this other convention I've got down here of not saying get, but just saying what the conversion is. I don't know. I don't need to be consistent. Okay, so then I can say here just trying to catch all the different combinations, even more than I actually need for the particular calling code I'm writing, because then I'll be able to use this function again without thinking about it too much. And if that seems like gold plating, I'll point out that there's another function I just wrote, and because I have some confidence that I already wrote that function in a complete way, I just used it, and it's probably going to work. Just like some days in the future, there'll be some other place in the code where I'll want to call this function again for another purpose, and if I just be optimistic and try it, it'll work. Probably. Because I'm taking a little bit of extra time to add in the cases beyond what I just need at the moment. Return. So this is northwest. No. So actually that's northwest. This is southwest. And this is just west. Okay, and these are the easterly directions. And big picture, what I'm doing here is, for anyone that may have just joined, I am writing some code that shows it shows like a little warning inside of the square if the player is about ready to do something stupid if they move into that square. And I'm going to write some logic that checks for problems. That's why I'm actively working on. And it'll be nice when I see it working. I think it'll look really cool. Okay, so then this is the case where it's going to be either north or south. Okay, then I'll do a little more checking. I'll see if I'm pointing up or down. Okay. I suppose this is sort of like a binary tree. Kind of just wrote an unrolled binary tree. Okay, this is if it's less than 0, that's going down. If it's greater than 0, it's going up. Wait, is there no? Okay, that's fine. I don't need to do up and down. Let's take that out. Alright, so that's the direction. Then I gotta write a little interface. Not an interface, an implementation of an interface for can a creature push into a square. That should not be too hard. But only iReactants need to write it. Let me take a look at the logic over there. React util. This would be a good place to put it. Let's see, I also need to know into CRH from. this order is better. Okay, so let's do this piece. First, I just gotta check if let's see. So let me think about this. Got this other code here, which is pretty similar. Let me look at it. So on this one, I'm saying I'm going to pass in the piece. I'm going to pass in the direction of movement on the board. So I'd say I got some code here to see where that would actually move to. Okay. Okay. And then I just see if there's anything there. So I need to write code like this, but not exactly like it. Because this reactant piece would fail on the player. So it's more like I want would push player. Let me see if I can just change this a little bit. So let's see. Because I don't want it to check if it can push anything. I want to see if it will push the player. And I can probably make this symmetrical. So just to start out, let me make like the push player version. Okay, so I can have this, it'll be symmetrical with this, which is kind of nice. There is some copy and paste code here. I could refactor it. I'm not a fan of over refactoring. Well, when you say over refactoring, of course, Um, Everyone agrees you don't want to over refactor, but that's just putting the word over in front of it. I'm not a fan of refactoring when I will only save like a little bit of repetition, and it'll end up being more work maintaining just to understand the logic in the base function. It gets called by the other function. So I could put like a would push function that both of these called, that would have a type parameter in it, and you pass either iReactive piece or player piece. But I just don't see that reducing complexity. I've got both of the functions right here. Yes, they're copy and paste, but it's quite easy to see what needs to be done if I change one to change the one next to it. They're right next to each other. So I don't know. I'm on the fence about it, but this is like right in the gray area of where I would maybe refactor. Let me make an overloaded version of this. It'll take a target CRH. And I do want to write like so there's quite a bit of logic in here. There's a lot of logic to go through here. I do want to write like a trivial check for, is this piece anywhere near the target CRH? I can do that pretty easily. I think I might do the check. Okay, let's do this. If Alright, that's the trivial check. Let's call this player CRH. Here's the tricky part, though. The player piece is not in that square yet, so this check here is going to always be false. Because I'm checking something that's theoretical. Like, if the player moved into that square, would they get pushed? So I have to okay, let's would push target. Since the player's not there. Okay, so this I'm going to unrefactor it. Oh, here I gotta be careful. So let's call this piece CRH. Now it looks like I'm kind of getting the same information I already had in my target CRH. Let me double check that though. Well, it's different though. It's different. So it's saying. So I'm getting confused because I happen to use the same term, but they mean two different things. Alright, so here I'm making sure that it's at least conceivable that this piece could move in such a way that this target square would be pushed. And then I'm checking to see that the direction of movement towards that square is going to be north, south, west, or east. I think actually I can combine these checks. So I can say if delta DC equals 0, this is going to be north or south movement. I might as well say delta dr equals 1 or delta dr equals -1 or north-south movement. Delta dr equals 0 and delta dc equals 1 or yeah. So I'm just going to check that the distance that the command that is going to be issued will be either north, south, west, or east movement. And then I have to do this other check that the height isn't wildly different. It should be within 1 square. And I'm going to change this back to can push into square. And I'll say I've already used the term target. Let's say 2 CRH. Okay. And I might as well, since I lost my symmetry, put that there. That might be pretty close to what I originally had for the function. And let's say more generally, let's check that it's possible for a pushing movement to work. Check is no longer needed, handled above. And then let's set this to be target CRH. And here I think the logic can change too. I don't need to see what's in the board. I just need to see if the target CRH is the same as the 2 CRH I passed in, and then that's just returning true if it is, false if it's not. But the other part that's missing is an obstacle check. Okay. So make sure it's possible to walk into that square. If piece can walk to delta TC delta DR board. Turn false. Okay. Okay, so for all that, I think I get something pretty cool. I think it's going to be good. Let's see if I changed it. Okay, board target. You also need piece, but that'll come from these guys. So brawler piece. Okay, I think I'm just copying this into a few classes for reactants. Okay, so I've got the brawler, the heavy, let's see, who else? Beamer. I think Beamers, yeah, Beamers can push. Dang it. Okay, Beamer, brawler, heavy, Spiker. I think all this I did. So I delete that. Alright. So that is a lot of new code I added. That's a lot. It's almost certainly going to fail. So, oops. Oh, I called it something else. So I think I'll set a breakpoint for that. Which will get called way too much, not that useful. So let me just do my thing where I just, code coverage way, set up breakpoints inside all the different branches. Let's make sure I hit them all. Could do that with unit tests, but I just don't feel like it. I just don't feel like it. I've got a feeling that on single person projects for code that's not going to have like a giant legacy of decades or years, the unit tests are still valuable, but they're not nearly as valuable. So like I wouldn't do a fully test driven personal project loaded up with unit tests. I do have hundreds of unit tests in this thing. But yeah, I just don't think it's the same thing as writing a web application with tens of coders working in the same code base and CI/CD deployment and all that. It's just not the same thing. All right. Hit play. Okay, so now you're going to start checking through all the reactants, and there should be a bunch. There should be like 20 or something like that. 13? Okay, yeah, that's right. Okay, so then undo that breakpoint. The real logic I want to hit. It's going to be in here. Just undo all the breakpoints as I check over the code. It's like a poor man's unit test. Lazy man's unit test. 18, 19, 26. Okay, cool. Delta. So I'm curious, is it going to do? Yeah, okay, good. So it should return false here because different things. DC is not 0. The delta for X or column is not 0, and neither is that. Okay, so I see an issue with the logic already. So really I want to be checking here. I'm just going to stop. So I have a change I need to make. Come on. Hush up, hush up, hush up. Stop, stop, stop. Okay. So, and I want to do an OR check for this. I'm saying I either want north-south movement or I want west-east movement, but the next thing also has to be true, and that's an AND check. So, and this other thing is just checking that the height is within range. Okay, so all good there. Save. Start again. I'm ignoring all these nasty messages because the code was wrong anyways. Okay, so there's some kind of bug here where it's hiding the middle square, but that's okay. I can track that down. I've got all my breakpoints set up to check for these guys. So here I move close to this guy. I wanted to just check that logic that I have there is not going to see him as close to me, because he's actually up several squares high. So the height check is confirmed as working. Oh, did I start the debugger again? I don't think I did. Oh, that frame rate. It's actually much better if I'm not broadcasting. There's some issues with it, but it doesn't drop down below 30 frames per second most of the time. Actually, most of the time it's over 100. So I didn't have my debugger going, did I? No, I did not. And there are some errors that are happening still. Let me start this again with the debugger. Shut up. All right. Come on. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go, Unity. Wait, where am I? Okay. Oh, so you think it should be here, code? Nothing's close to it, so something's screwed up. Yeah, this logic still needs some work. I'm glossing over it a little bit too quickly. So let me just okay, I see what I did. There's so much CPU usage going on with everything that my mouse pointer is like has little catches in it. That's one of the last things in your operating system that should slow down. It's going I don't even mean like things I click on. I mean just seeing it update its position on the screen. The mouse pointer is slowing down for me. Just a lot of CPU stuff going on. Okay, so this is just wrong. I'm kind of blundering my way through it, and I shouldn't. So let me just break it out a little bit. bool is cardinal direction equals. Okay, so if I would say if it's not a cardinal direction, or the height is out of range, then I'll return false. Okay, so the execution should not have gotten down to here because this logic was incorrect. I mean, it did get down to there because this logic was incorrect. Now I think it's fixed. Okay, good. You should be saying false to everything right now. Nothing is within range. Okay. It's not correct for those to be showing north. But it's okay. I can come back to that. Let's see if this guy triggers anything. Nope. He's judged as not being close. Okay, here's our first test. I think let me think about this. So why isn't more code, why isn't another one of my breakpoints lighting up with him close by? That seems off. Also, I'm going to turn off this maximize on play because it will take less CPU and it will also let me see the console window more easily while I'm in play mode. I don't like that I don't have a breakpoint for this guy being close to me. I don't like that. Let's see if I can get... Okay. So now there's one that's close. Question is, okay. $15, $26, $12. Okay, it's at a different height. So that one should be a no. Let's see. So where he's going to is going to be it occurs to me I need to adjust my height for the terrain just like he's doing. So what I pass in should also be adjusted for what height the player would be at if the player moved to that square. So I need to also make that adjustment, because this would be a square that should have a push warning, I'm pretty sure. But it instead returned false. Now, since I'm already in this execution, I want to see oh, here's why I'm getting those north pointers, because I said north instead of none here. Change that. It won't go into effect yet, but that's fine. Okay. So I think I'm pretty close to getting something that's correct and works. That'll fix that bug. The next thing I need to do is say CRH H equals I think the code I want is this is the code I want. I don't need all this open. Let me close some of it. Player guide. Alright, that might work. So I don't have to do so much walking around. I'm going to pull some brawlers closer to me. Come on. Come on. Come on. That guy should start right next to me and immediately give me a push warning. Let's see what actually happens. Do I have the debugger running? Let's try it. Let's try it. Let's try it. So I'm trying to get, for anyone that may have just joined, I'm trying to get this thing to happen. Okay, it did. It worked. So what it's showing here is a warning that if I move north, if my character moves north, this other guy is going to push me. So I go north, sure enough he pushes me. Now go towards him again. Another warning. Push. Now this time there's no warning because I'm right next to him and I'm actually going to be able to push him. So I wanted to have that little hint there because it's a little bit hard when you're starting out with the game to understand what's going to happen when you move into squares. And after a while, like this thing that I've written here could be considered training wheels, I imagine. Might be a nice setting to turn off if a person doesn't like it. I think I would leave it on for myself though. Playing, I think I would keep it on, even though I know the mechanics just fine. Okay. So this might be a new working feature. Let me try. Nice. It works going upstairs too. So that makes me happy. So I know if I go east up the steps, I'm gonna get knocked on my ass. Actually worse than that, I'll get knocked into infinity. I'll go off into a void and die. Cool, and it's showing correctly the direction that I'll get pushed. Interesting. So here, every direction that I could walk would result in me being pushed. And it actually made a little diagram showing all the possibilities, and they're all correct. So if I move west, I'll get pushed north. If I move south, I'll get pushed east, etc., etc. So this is where, if I were trying to not get pushed, I would hold down the shift key and see my fling options and see, well, there's a couple ways I can get out of this mess. I can just fling south, wherever that goes. I know it'll catch me someplace, even though I can't see the location because it's off screen, but that's the point of the fling guide, to give you all the information you need. So I flung south. There's the other thing you can see about the fling guide is I'm not able to all to fling north because it's blocked by one of these creatures, a brawler. Same here. Go like that. You can see it's a little faint. It's a little faint because of the bright lighting here. The X there means I can't fling that way. That brawler is blocking the way. Alright, this is really nice. It's actually working exactly as I intended. So let's go get close to some other brawlers. Alright, so yeah, telling me I better not continue that way. I will get pushed. So far I've seen not one bug with it. I would like to see what happens when the square in question is a fall that goes down and would result in a push. It's hard to tell. So here it's correctly saying that I will get pushed when I fall down. So I would destroy the guy that's immediately there underneath me, and his buddy north of him would push me and kill me. So that's correct. I got a little impatient there. All right. So I was giving myself the whole session to put this feature in, and now I've got it done. And I like to always stop a session on a good note. So I'm going to not quite stop the session. I think I want to go a little bit longer. I'm trying to pick a small task that I can finish during that time. It's relatively low risk because I hate ending a stream with a failure or something left incomplete. So let me think, what can I add? That's like 15 minutes, maybe 30. Yeah, this appears to be rock solid, this logic here. So, yeah, that's good. Okay, let me think about the fling. Anything I want to do with the fling? I think there was one error case with flinging that I could fix. I could fix one bug. I could fix one bug that I know about with the fling guide. That's how I can spend the remainder of this session. So to set it up, I need to have a brawler right next to me. Not one square away, he's got to be right next to me. Oops. Okay. Then, I think I've already got the debugger going. What I want to check is there. I'll show the bug first, and then I'll set the breakpoint after that. Also good to verify I've got this set up correctly to show the bug. So if I hit shift, no, that time it didn't Well, it did screw up. It did screw up. Because what it did is when this guy's right next to me, the seek ray goes out. It goes out further than it should. So it should immediately stop and show blocked in the square next to me, but instead it seeks out past him. So I should be seeing instead a little X right in front of this guy. So what I'm going to do is go check in the code for why it's skipping over that square. So this is it right here. Seek for fling ray. What I can do, I can check in this function here. It should be the first breakpoint that gets hit. So then I come back here. Let's try it. Okay. So I expect that this is the north direction. Let me check that. Yep, it's north. Max length should be at least 1. 7, fine. Current length should be 0. New length we don't... Oh, we do know. It got set to the current length of 0. Okay. So then... going to move that to the next square. So now R is going to be just 1 square north. This should be the same square that the brawler's in. Okay, so if I go... Oh, there's something weird there. So I'm adding like an extra delta here. Why would I do that? I see, okay. So this function here wants me to check for movement from 1 square into the next. And I'm off by 1. I'm just off by 1, that's all. So this square is meant to be where you're at currently. Okay, got it. So I can just move this down. I think I'll hit play to just let it go through. And then I'll go back into Unity and stop it and get a new build. Alright, that should do it. I think that'll win. I think that will win. Did I stop Unity yet? I like to stop it without changing the code underneath of it. It seems to put it into weird states. Hopefully I did it in time. Because if I save the code in the IDE and Unity's still playing, sometimes it actually tries to do something with that new code while it's still playing, and it seems like it should actually just give up and not try, because most of the time it doesn't work. I mean, it'd be a cool trick if the game could keep running while I was making changes to the code, but nah, it doesn't. It just fails. Okay, so now what happens? Huh. Okay. Better. But still not right. Still not right. So the issue is that the length is out one too far. So I can change it so that the length will come forward one, or it'll be here, let me just see if it's still, yep, okay, it's consistently off. So I should be okay to just put new length on the other side. This. Let's say if I just don't like to have it be special cased like this. Let me so I've already got this state check here. This is equivalent code. I do like that it's really clear that these changes don't affect this check, but it's doing close to the same thing there. The question is, if I adjust the length to correct the blocking icon, am I going to mess up other things? I think other things seem to be working correctly. And also this length is not just a display length, it's a logical location as well. So anyways, let me save that. I'm just going to check the other things that are affected by the length to make sure that they continue to be correct, and it's just the blocking icon that's off, because that determines if I'm going to make a change specific to the blocking presentation or if I'm going to make a more general change to how the length is applied. Okay. Oh. So the cot icon is out too far as well. I think it's just underneath this here. I don't know that, but I'm pretty sure that's it. So I did do something here where I unwittingly fixed one thing and broke another. Let me verify that it truly is just a off by one error that applies to all of the things. Here, maybe I can see it. Yeah, there it is. It's off by one. Yeah, I just wanted to verify that the cot icon, the cot end, was off by one. It is. So is the blocking end. I don't understand though. Why? I didn't think that I actually modified anything related to that. So what I should be checking for is if the length is logically correct. So I'm going to go someplace where it's easy for me to see what the logical length should be. And then I'll check in the debugger. So I know the display length is off, but it's a question now, is the logical length wrong? So like if that function that I was in, if it is saying that if it's saying that the blocking point is 1, 2, 3 squares away, that's probably what it is saying. I think that would be correct with my current logic. Okay. So what do I mean length to be? I want it to be not the square that is blocking our cot, but the one right before it, because it is going to be the location. If I'm seeking where I search next, so if I have length of 2, the next one will be 3. Okay. So if my logic is correct, and I'm pretty sure it's not, the length that gets returned here should be 1, 2, not 3. It should be 2. So let me check. New length equals 1? 1? Oh, my max length is still not far enough. Yeah. It's hard to debug this code sometimes because it's tied into the timing states as well, which I suppose is an argument for unit testing if I wanted to pull that out, because I could mock out timing values and things like that. The rest of these are going to be pointless. set a breakpoint on the first time that something gets caught. Okay, new length. Will it be 3, I hope? Yes, because that is a bug I understand. I can fix that real easy. Okay, so then I'll just stop this guy. Okay. So then, I guess what I'm saying is that if the new state is one of the resolved states, then I'll subtract 1 from the length, because that length that it returned from this loop is actually saying what the obstacle is that it came across, and that's not where I want the length to end up. So do that. Okay. So a nice thing is, after this bug, that will be the last known task I have with any of these guides. So this would be the moment where, other than like tweaking and responses to beta testing and user acceptance, stuff like that, this would be the end of the work on the navigation guides. It's nice to say something's done, because there's a whole bunch of things that I've written that are just kind of 90% there, 80% there, and that last little 5 to 10% can actually be quite time consuming. You can fool yourself into thinking there's not much left, and there is a lot. But in this case, I feel pretty good about saying this is done. I could ship with this particular feature. I don't have to make apologies for it or say, oh, there's some extra little thing I want to do on it. I'll get to it. Other than that, it's done. Okay, that's right. The X is in the good spot. Yep, that's good. Okay, so this is looking like a moment of victory. It's testing out pretty well. Yep, there's the X this is the first case that I fixed, where if the guy is right next to me, I want the X to be right there too. That's good. It's all working. It's all working. It's all good. In the done pile. Navigation guides. Helping people out. Showing them information about the world. No known bugs in this feature. Done, done, done. Alright, so I'm going to stop the stream. Good time to stop. When something has been finished all the way to completion, that's a really good time to stop. So, yep. Join me next on Sunday, where I'm going to put together the first level of the game. For reals. Bye.